What's something your employer did that instantly killed employee morale? I work in a big corporate building. The same older lady came by everyone's desk towards the end of the day to collect the trash. Just the sweetest lady ever, and every time she'd walk to my desk she'd give me a big smile and ask me how my day was and chat for a minute as she got my trash. Usually I'd dump it in for her. I had some rough days, but she has a way to cheer me up and send me home on a higher note. I know I'm not the only one either. So then a few weeks back our work implemented a new policy to backquote, cut down on trash usage. It's no longer allowed to have a trash bin at our desk, and we have to walk across the room and use the community trash to throw anything away. Not a huge deal, but the real reason they did it is so they can cut down on cost, i.e. the cleaning crew. Sad to say that I haven't seen Sharon since. Boss pitched a sales incentive trip to Cancun if the team hit the goal. My team exceeded the goal, and then they cancelled the trip. 2 people quit. I accepted a position with their main competitor, and less than a year later, they closed in bankruptcy. Kamasa Beach. This school wanted to switch to Chromebooks. So what did they do? One summer while teachers weren't working, they removed every single Windows station and replaced them with Chromebooks to be issued to teachers. They were told to figure it out. When teachers came up and asked how they could teach Photoshop, programming, AutoCAD 3D modeling, etc., admin basically googled their program name plus Chromebook extension and told them, see, there's an extension for it and it works. I don't think I have to add that it did not work. They ended up bringing back the desktops for most teachers. Small business, 20 employees more or less. Boss made a big speech about austerity measures and no raises this year. A week and a half later he drives up in a brand new Silverado with all the bells and whistles. Expense to the business, of course. He would hate to have to pay taxes on those profits. One of the less subtle members of the staff took a literal crap in front of his office door. Former teacher. The administrators at my school were usually pretty chill, but had a habit of randomly coming up with minor rules that they would enforce for us. Male teachers had to wear ties even on Jeans Day, etc. Overall it wasn't bad, except for the time an administrator made a crucial mistake. They banned staff from drinking coffee in front of students. Now if you've never worked in a school, you'd think this isn't a big deal. When you spend nearly 100% of your day in front of students, it definitely is a big deal. First we tried to find any loophole we could. Energy drinks? Banned the next week. Tea? Banned 2 days later. It was chaos. Eventually, we realized they couldn't fire an entire school's worth of teachers and aides, so we ended up doing the one thing that private schools fear most. We formed a union. Realistically, it was more of a weird pseudo-union focused specifically on civil disobedience regarding the coffee issue, but it ruffled feathers nonetheless. The administrators caved to our demands, allowed us to drink coffee again, and even bought each of us a reusable coffee mug as a gesture of goodwill. And that's the story of how a handful of school administrators almost accidentally created a teachers union over a complete non-issue. I worked at a club in Miami and the owner was out of his fucking mind. Years of drug abuse. When the housing market crashed, obviously people were spending far less going out, but he insisted we were all stealing. We had meetings once a week with all kinds of threats. Finally he put in an automatic pouring system for $50K plus. It basically looks like you're pouring drinks from a soda gun. Super boring. The fun vibe and flair we had was totally gone, which made sales drop even more. He ripped the system out 2 weeks later. I used to work at an English immersion middle school in Korea. The admin was all Korean, including my boss, the vice principal. Word started going around that the school was under investigation for certain admin taking bribes to admit students. The VP got visibly anxious for a few weeks. Then one Sunday night we got a text message from one of the Korean teachers at the school. The vice principal has passed away. It turns out he had hung himself in the school lobby that afternoon. The teaching staff still had to be at school the next morning, even though classes were cancelled for several days. I remember walking into the school and seeing a custodian mopping the spot where the VP had been hanging. Morale tanked pretty hard for a while. had a boss everyone loved. Then she got transferred to another store and the new guy that replaced her decided the schedule that we'd all gotten used to needed to be shaken up. He posted the next week's schedule that was completely different than it had been under the previous manager. Got a bunch of complaints from people saying they can't work X days or Y times, and it seemed he was receptive since he took that schedule down. Then suddenly bam, he just reposted the same exact schedule and said fuck everyone. Oh, we had some people calling in sick from time to time under the old manager, but this new manager has pretty much half his crew every single day calling out because of his shitty tactics. Here's the first thing to learn about being a good manager. You don't need to shake things up for people to be better workers. You don't need to put your mark on anything. If it's working, just fine the way it was. One of our senior employees asked for a raise because it had been a few years since he had had one, and he was doing a great job. Management reviewed his file, realized they could pay one of the new guys half of the salary of experienced guy, fired senior guy, promoted junior dude. They weren't aware of the warehouse dynamic and soon found out that no one liked or wanted to work for or with junior guy. Morale dropped a lot. A week later, senior guy committed suicide. Once the warehouse was informed/invited to the funeral, morale really dropped, and eventually junior guy became so ineffective trying to run the shop that he was fired, and the next senior guy just kind of took over without management doing anything about it. Everything began to run as it had before senior guy was fired. My boss is looking to retire in the next 3 to 4 years. He told everyone that he wanted us to come up our visions for the company and its future over the next 5, 10, 20 years. We are a small office of about a half dozen people, but we've been growing, and so everyone brought up growth projections and succession planning once he retires, etc. His son is the heir apparent and has a precocious 8-year-old, so in my 20-year version I even included the grandson joining the business and grooming it to become a legacy company. My boss went last, and we were expecting something acknowledging some of our thoughts, or at least an expression of appreciation that the company he founded would live on well past his retirement, be in good hands, etc. Instead it was brutal and short. It was something along the lines of I do everything around here anyway, so I should just sell the company to fund my retirement and you can all find other companies to work for in a few years. Mood killed. Meeting ended. Business had been running for 3 years and many of the employees had been there from the beginning without getting a pay rise. After some requests, the company announced that there would be a review of everyone's pay, called in each worker to discuss. Basically they had decided to pay every employee the same amount. This meant that a few got a raise, most stayed the same, and some, who had negotiated better at hiring, had their wages reduced. Needless to say, most employees were unhappy. 2 weeks later, the 3 brothers who owned the business bought themselves 2 new cars and a second-hand Rolls Royce. That was a real slap in the face. Regarding how employees will travel between Site A and Site B. What if something happens to their kids? They will need a way back here, and sharing one vehicle between 8 people makes that difficult. They won't want to come back. They'll stay and work. No. Parents will 100% not care at all about what's happening at work. When somebody calls and said there's something wrong with their kid, we don't need to invest in group transport. Then we bought a company van that employees don't like. I worked at a dog daycare center as the assistant manager for a few months. We just started a training class, so you would tell us what commands you would like us to teach your dog and we would pull them aside for 1 hour and teach that command with a certified trainer. The service usually cost an extra $45 plus on top of your daycare visit. Well, our trainer quit unexpectedly, and the owner asked myself and the other manager to step in as the trainers. We informed him that we did not have the proper certifications and our program promised the customers a certified trainer. He then told us to bring them in for an hour and have the dog hang out with us in the office and he would tell the parents what they worked on for the day. Needless to say, we refused to do so, and we were blamed for being non-loyal good-for-nothing millennials. Well, he received 6 2-week notices within 1 week after I revealed this conversation with the employees. This place only had 10 employees in total. No raises or bonuses this year due to company performance, but I will make it up to you by taking the whole company to the lake for a trip on my new 30-foot boat.